It was a calm Saturday morning. A mother was driving her 10-year-old daughter to visit her husband's mother. The daughter sat in the front seat, playing quietly. While they waited at a red light, the girl opened the glove box and pulled out a small black USB stick. She said she had found it under the seat earlier. The mother took it without thinking much. She smiled and thanked her daughter, not knowing what was inside. They arrived at the grandmother's house, but instead of going in, the mother stayed in the car for a moment. The daughter had already run inside to play. Curious, the mother plugged the USB into her laptop to see what it was. Maybe it had work files or music. But what came on the screen made her heart stop. A video started to play. In it, her husband was lying naked in bed. He wasn't alone. Lying next to him was her best friend, the one she had known since college, the one who stood next to her at her wedding, the one who held her daughter when she was born. She couldn't believe what she was seeing. Her hands shook. Her face turned cold. She quickly clicked to see what else was on the USB. There were more videos, many more. Her husband and her best friend, in different rooms, in different clothes, on different days. It wasn't a mistake or a one-time thing. It had been going on for a long time. She looked around. Everything outside the car was quiet. Birds chirped, kids laughed in the backyard, and the sun was shining. But inside, her world was falling apart. She felt frozen, betrayed, confused, hurt. She wanted to scream, but no sound came out. She sat there, staring at the laptop. The video kept playing. Her husband was laughing in it. Her friend smiled and kissed him. It was all so casual, so normal, as if nothing was wrong, as if they had no shame. The mother closed the laptop quickly. She couldn't watch anymore. Her stomach hurt. Her chest felt tight. She took deep breaths, trying not to cry. She didn't want her daughter or anyone inside the house to know something was wrong. Not yet. She wiped her eyes, fixed her face in the mirror, and got out of the car. She walked toward the house like everything was fine. But inside, nothing would ever be the same again. That one small question, "Mom, what's this?" had changed everything in a single moment. She walked into the house with a smile, pretending everything was okay. Her heart was heavy, but she didn't let it show. Her daughter ran off to play with her cousins, laughing like nothing had happened. Her husband's mother welcomed her warmly, talking about small things, the weather, lunch, a neighbor's birthday. The mother nodded and smiled, answering politely. Her voice stayed calm. Her hands stayed steady. But inside, everything was breaking. Each word spoken at the table felt far away. She heard her name a few times, but it took effort to answer. Her thoughts kept going back to the USB. She saw the faces again, even with her eyes open. She remembered the way her best friend laughed in that video, the way her husband looked so relaxed, so familiar with her. She wondered how long it had been happening, how many times they had lied to her face. She kept pouring juice, passing plates, asking the children if they wanted more food. She even made a joke when her daughter spilled a little water. Everyone laughed. Her mother-in-law told her how lucky her son was to have a wife like her. She smiled again, tighter this time. She said thank you. When no one was looking, she went to the bathroom. She locked the door and sat on the edge of the tub. Her hands were shaking again. She opened her laptop and plugged the USB back in. She needed to see more, even if it hurt. A new file started playing. It was inside a hotel room. Her heart dropped again. She knew that room. It was the same one her husband had taken her to on their last wedding anniversary. He had called it their special place. They had taken photos together in that room. Now she was watching a video of him with her best friend in the same bed, under the same lights, laughing the same way he had laughed with. She paused the video. She stared at the screen, trying not to cry. Her eyes burned. Her throat felt tight. She wanted to throw the laptop, but instead, she closed it carefully and placed it on the counter. She washed her face with cold water, trying to calm herself. She looked in the mirror. Her eyes were red, but she practiced a smile until it looked real. She came back out and joined the others. Her daughter ran up to her, pulling her hand, asking her to come see something in the backyard. She followed. Her feet felt heavy, but her smile stayed in place. She spent the rest of the visit helping with lunch, talking with her husband's mother, and watching her daughter play. On the outside, she looked fine. No one asked if she was okay. No one noticed anything different. But inside her chest, everything was spinning. She wanted to scream, but she didn't. She wanted to leave, but she stayed. When it was finally time to go home, she hugged everyone politely and thanked them. She held her daughter's hand and walked to the car, still smiling. Once they were alone, her face changed. Quiet returned, but her mind was loud. The videos, the lies, the pain, all of it stayed with her. She didn't know what to do next, but she knew one thing. Nothing would ever feel normal again. She came back home with her daughter and acted like everything was normal. She cooked dinner, helped with homework, and smiled when her husband talked. But as soon as everyone was asleep, she went to the living room and opened her laptop again. She couldn't stop herself. She needed to see what else was on the USB. Her hands were cold, her heart heavy, but she clicked through each file one by one. Some of the videos were from calls. She could see her husband's face on the screen, laughing and talking. On the other side of the screen was a face she knew too well, her best friend. They talked for hours. They smiled, joked, and said things that made her stomach turn. These weren't just quick chats. They were long, full of comfort and secrets. The kind of talks that should have been between a husband and wife, but they weren't. Other files were even worse. Some were videos taken in her own house. She recognized the couch, the kitchen, the bed. These were places where her child played, where she had cooked meals, where she had believed her life was safe. In one video, her husband and her best friend were sitting at the dining table. She wasn't home that day. She remembered being at work. She thought it had been just a normal day. But they had been there, alone, laughing and touching like nothing was wrong. She paused the video and just sat there, staring. Her chest felt tight. The woman in the video wasn't just anyone. She was the friend who had been there through everything. They had met in college. They had shared late-night talks, broken hearts, dreams. She was the one who had helped her pick a wedding dress. The one who had stood beside her at the altar, smiling with tears in her eyes. She was the one who had held her baby the day she was born and promised to always be there for her. Now, watching these videos, everything changed. All the memories, all the laughs they once shared felt fake. Every hug, every I love you between friends, it all felt like a lie. She remembered the times her friend had visited their house, stayed over for dinner, played with her daughter. She used to feel lucky to have such a close friend. Now she felt sick thinking about it. She kept watching. Each file showed more lies, more moments that had been hidden from her. Her home no longer felt like a safe place. It felt like a stage where they had played out their secret life. She remembered conversations that didn't make sense at the time, but now did. Her friend asking strange questions. Her husband acting nervous after certain visits. The truth had been right in front of her, but she hadn't seen it. She closed the laptop and sat back, silent. The room was dark and quiet, but her thoughts were loud. Everything she thought she knew about her friend, her husband, her life was broken. And now she couldn't trust any memory that involved them. Every familiar face had a different meaning now. Every kind word felt false. She realized this wasn't just betrayal. It was something deeper. It was the loss of everything she thought was real. The invitation was simple, a girl's night just like old times. The message was cheerful, full of emojis and warmth. The reply came fast. Of course she'd come. She sounded excited, like always. No hesitation. No guilt. The house was quiet. Candles gave off a soft glow. A bottle of wine sat open on the table. Everything looked cozy and normal. A bowl of chips, 2 glasses, soft music playing in the background. Just like the hundreds of nights before. The doorbell rang. The guest stepped inside with a smile and a bag of snacks. A hug followed, long and friendly. Familiar. Too familiar. The same laugh, the same perfume, the same voice that once brought comfort. Now it felt cold under the skin. The two sat on the couch. Wine was poured, toasts made. Laughter came easily, at least from one side. Talk moved from daily life to small memories, from clothes to work drama. The same rhythm, the same habits. As if nothing had happened, as if nothing was wrong. Then came the comment, light and casual, tossed out with a sip of wine. Your husband's so focused. Always working late, never complains. You're lucky. The words hung in the air like smoke. A small nod answered. A soft smile, tight at the corners. No cracks on the surface, but everything underneath was shaking. The conversation kept flowing. Old memories came up. Vacations, parties, shared stories from years ago. One trip was mentioned, the one that had always felt strange in memory. Now it was clear why. That was the weekend he said he'd gone out of town for work. He hadn't. That lie had been captured on video. So the question came, slow and casual. Remember that trip you took last summer? Wasn't that the same weekend you said you had that stomach bug? The answer came without pause. Oh yes, it was awful. I stayed in bed the whole time. Barely ate anything. Another sip of wine. Another easy smile. Not a flicker of doubt. Not a moment of fear. The lie was smooth. Practiced. Said like truth. It didn't sound forced. Not even a blink. The same voice used to comfort, to share secrets, now spun fiction like it was nothing. Every word scratched at the inside of the listener's mind. Every laugh felt like glass. The night went on. Jokes were shared. More wine poured. Every look, every touch of the arm, every moment felt like a scene in a play. Rehearsed. Perfect. Not real. Nothing was mentioned. Not the USB. Not the videos. Not the betrayal. But every second of the evening played against a background of silent knowledge. A quiet storm behind calm eyes. Watching. Listening. Not missing a word. When it was time to say goodbye, the goodbye was warm. Another hug. Another, we should do this more often. The door closed behind the guest. Footsteps faded. Silence returned. The wine glasses were still on the table. One still half full. The scent of perfume still in the air. The smile from earlier still burned in memory, bright, easy fake. A face once trusted now felt like a mask. And behind it, nothing but lies. Her chest felt heavy, and her thoughts wouldn't stop. Every time she looked at her husband, she felt more distant from him. She spoke when she needed to, answered his questions, and smiled when their daughter was around. But inside, something had changed. The pain hadn't faded, it had grown sharper. Now she needed answers. Not guesses, not pieces, the full truth. One day, after he left for work, she went to the garage. She had bought a small GPS tracker online and kept it hidden until now. She walked to his car, knelt beside the back wheel, and placed it where it couldn't be seen. Then she stood up, dusted her hands, and went back inside like nothing happened. Her heart was steady. She wasn't afraid anymore. She was ready to know everything. Later that week, when he was out again, she returned to the garage to search for more. She opened drawers, moved boxes, and checked behind shelves. She looked in places she had never thought to check before. In the bottom of the toolbox, under a cloth, she found something strange, an old black phone. No case, no charger, just the phone hidden away. She brought it inside and charged it using her own cable. When it finally turned on, it didn't ask for a password. The screen lit up, simple and blank. No contacts, no photos, no recent calls. But when she looked deeper, she found something, the drafts folder in the text messages. It had dozens of saved messages that had never been sent. She sat on the bed and read them slowly. Some messages were clearly for her best friend. Others were for someone else. A different name. Maybe another woman. The words were personal. They were raw. One message said, "I hate sneaking around, but I have no choice." Another said, "She suspects something. I need to be careful." Some were full of guilt, others full of longing. Some messages even talked about leaving, about starting over. She didn't know what shocked her more, the number of messages or the fact that they were written at all. He had a second life, one with secrets, with feelings he never shared with her. This wasn't just about one person. It went deeper, longer, hidden better than she had ever imagined. She searched through the rest of the phone. There were no pictures or saved videos, but she did find one audio file. It was only a few seconds long. She hesitated, then tapped play. His voice came through, quiet and serious. "You know I can't tell her. If she finds out, everything's over." The recording ended there. No names, no dates. Just that. She sat in silence for a long time. She didn't cry. She didn't speak. She just stared at the wall. The room around her looked the same, but it no longer felt like home. The bed they shared, the photos on the wall, the things they bought together, none of it felt real now. She placed the phone in her drawer and closed it. She wouldn't confront him yet. Not now. She needed more. She needed to understand the full picture. No more half-truths. No more waiting. She opened her laptop and checked the GPS tracker. His car was moving again, heading in a direction that didn't match what he had told her. She watched the screen closely. She didn't know exactly where he was going, but she knew one thing. She would find out everything. One evening, while the mother was folding laundry, her daughter walked into the room holding a coloring book. She sat on the bed and began to color quietly. After a few minutes, she looked up and said, "Mom, why does Daddy always talk to Annie Jess at night?" The mother froze. She didn't answer right away. She kept folding clothes and asked gently, "What do you mean, sweetie?" Her daughter shrugged. "Last night, I came to ask for water, and I saw him on the phone. He was smiling and saying something to Annie Jess. Then he told me to go back to bed." The mother smiled calmly, hiding her shock. She didn't want to scare her daughter. "Oh, maybe he was just saying hello," she said softly. Her daughter nodded and kept coloring, but the mother's mind was already racing. In the days that followed, more small comments came. "Daddy deleted messages when you were coming," her daughter said once while they were having breakfast. Another time, she asked, "Why doesn't Daddy let you see his phone?" Each time, the mother stayed calm on the outside, but her heart ached. Her little girl had started noticing things no child should ever have to notice. It wasn't just her marriage that was falling apart now. Her daughter's world was changing too. She realized that her child was watching everything closely. She was picking up on the quiet lies, the secret looks, the quick movement. Children notice more than adults think. Her daughter had begun to see her father in a new light. That thought hurt the most. One night, after her daughter had gone to bed, the mother sat in the living room alone. She didn't open the laptop this time. She didn't check the phone or the GPS. She just sat in silence, thinking about the small voice that had said, "Why does Daddy talk to Annie Jess at night?" She remembered when her daughter used to draw pictures of their family. Smiling faces, holding hands, happy days. Now those pictures had stopped. She still drew, but not the same things, not the same warmth. Her child was young, but not blind. That changed something inside the mother. Before, she had felt pain. She had felt betrayal. But now, she felt something stronger. Not for herself, but for her daughter. This wasn't just about what had been done to her. It was about what her daughter was learning from. She didn't want her child to grow up thinking love meant lies. She didn't want her to think hiding things was normal. She didn't want her to feel confused every time her parents smiled at each other while holding secrets behind their backs. From that moment, the mother knew she had to do more than just find the truth. She had to protect her daughter from it. She had to show her what strength looked like, what truth looked like, even if it hurt. She walked into her daughter's room and watched her sleep. Her small face looked calm, peaceful. The mother sat beside her and brushed her hair away from her forehead. Quietly, she whispered, "It's going to be okay." Not because it already was, but because she would make sure of it. The lies had gone on long enough. Her daughter had seen too much. Now it was time for change. Dinner was planned carefully. Invitations were sent to the husband, the best friend, and her best friend's husband. The message was simple: a relaxed evening with food and family. Everyone agreed without hesitation. They arrived on time, smiling, bringing small gifts and warm greetings. Laughter filled the kitchen as dinner was prepared. The table looked perfect. The food smelled good. Everything felt normal. Plates were passed around. Glasses clinked. Conversation was easy. They talked about work, school, funny memories. The daughter sat nearby, eating with a smile, unaware of the storm waiting to come. Everyone seemed happy, comfortable, safe. After dinner, they moved to the living room. The daughter went to her room. Drinks were refilled. Someone mentioned a board game. Then came the moment. Calmly, and without drawing attention, the host stood up and walked to the TV. A small USB stick was already in her hand. She didn't explain. She simply said, "I want to show you all something." The room grew quiet. The TV screen lit up. A video began to play. Every face turned toward the screen. What they saw was clear, and there was no way to deny it. The husband's face was in the video. So was the best friend. The setting was private. The content was personal. It was real. Eyes widened. Hands froze. A heavy silence filled the space. Footsteps came from the hallway. The daughter appeared in the doorway, holding a glass of water. She looked around at the adults, confused by their stillness. Her voice broke the silence. "Why is everyone so quiet?" In a flash, the TV went black. The video stopped. The daughter looked at the screen, then at her mother. No one answered her question. She stood for a moment, then quietly turned and walked back to her room. The silence didn't last. The best friend covered her face, her voice cracking as she spoke. The words didn't make sense at first. Broken sentences, pieces of truth mixed with denial. Her husband stared at her, disbelief in his eyes. Then he looked at the man across the room. His face turned red. He didn't say much. He didn't need to. He stood up, grabbed his keys, and walked out the door. The husband opened his mouth, trying to speak, but the words wouldn't come. His voice was weak. "It's not what it looks like," he finally said. But no one believed that. The host stood still, watching each reaction. Her eyes moved from one face to another. Her arms were crossed. She said nothing. She didn't have to. The room, once full of light conversation and shared stories, was now filled with something else, something sharp and painful. No one looked at each other the same way. No one sat comfortably anymore. It was as if the air had changed. The screen stayed dark, but the memory of what played on it remained clear. The evening ended without goodbyes. People left without finishing their drinks. Doors closed. Lights were turned off. The house was quiet again, but nothing felt peaceful. One video had done what words couldn't. It had shown the truth, and the truth had broken everything. The door closed behind the last guest, but the noise hadn't ended. In the living room, the husband turned toward his wife, his face tense. "You planned this," he said sharply. His voice was louder now, shaking. "You set me up." The wife stood still, not moving, not raising her voice. She looked straight at him. She didn't answer right away. Her calm only made him more nervous. He started walking in circles, running a hand through his hair. "You waited until they were all here. You wanted to embarrass me," he said, his words coming fast. He wasn't just angry, he was scared. The best friend sat on the edge of the couch, holding her face in her hand. "This wasn't supposed to happen like this," she said through tears. "You made me believe it meant something. You said you weren't happy. You used me." Her husband, who had just come back inside for his jacket, heard her. His face turned red. He looked at her, then at the man who had once been his friend. He shook his head, grabbed his jacket off the chair, and walked straight out again without a word. The glass in his hand slipped and shattered near the door. No one cleaned it up. Back in the room, the husband tried to fix the story. "It was a mistake. It didn't mean anything," he said quickly. "It happened once. You don't understand." His eyes searched for pity, for any sign of forgiveness. The wife didn't move. She walked to the table and picked up a folder. Calmly, she opened it and placed it on the coffee table in front of him. Inside were printouts, dates, photos, receipts, screenshots. Everything. His words stopped. "I've already met with a lawyer," she said in a steady voice. "Everything you've done is here. Every lie. Every place. Every payment. It's all recorded. He looked down at the folder, then back at her. You've been planning this? He asked, voice low now. She nodded once. Since the day I saw what was on that USB. The best friend looked up, her face pale. You didn't tell me you kept the videos, she said softly. You didn't ask, the wife replied. Her eyes didn't move from her husband's face. The room fell quiet again. The man who had spent years hiding things now stood with nothing left to say. The woman he had betrayed was no longer guessing, no longer unsure. She had facts, proof, a plan. He sat down slowly, looking at the papers. His face looked different now, not proud, not angry, just defeated. The wife picked up the folder, closed it, and tucked it under her arm. This isn't about fighting anymore, she said. It's about ending what you started. He didn't reply. She walked out of the room, her steps calm and quiet. Behind her, the truth sat heavy in the air. No more pretending. No more stories. The lies had ended. What came next would be real and final. The next morning, she got up early. The house was quiet. Her daughter was still sleeping. She made coffee and sat at the kitchen table with her phone in her hand. She knew exactly what she needed to do. No more waiting. No more wondering. Now it was time to act. She called her lawyer and said she was ready. They had spoken before. Everything was prepared. She had given all the proof, videos, messages, dates. There was no doubt about what had happened. The lawyer promised to file the papers that same day. It was happening. Divorce was no longer just a thought. It was real now. Later that day, she went online and opened their bank account. She moved her half into a new account in her own name. She made sure all bills would still be paid, but she locked the shared accounts so he couldn't use the money without her. It was all done quietly. No messages. No warning. She didn't feel angry in that moment. She felt clear. Focused. It wasn't about hurting him. It was about protecting herself and her daughter. The man she once trusted had made his choices. Now she was making hers. That evening, she sat down with her daughter. They were on the couch, side by side. She held her little hand and spoke gently. She didn't give details. She didn't use harsh words. She just said that things were going to change, that sometimes grown-ups make mistakes, that she and Daddy wouldn't live in the same house anymore, but both would still love her always. Her daughter asked a few questions. Some were simple, some were hard. She answered each one with love. The little girl nodded slowly. Then she leaned against her mother's side, quiet but calm. The phone rang many times that week. His mother called. His sister too. The messages were full of emotion. Some were confused. Some were upset. Some begged her to talk. But she didn't pick up. She didn't write back. She had nothing left to explain. The truth was already out. She didn't shout. She didn't cry in front of anyone. She went to work. She packed a few of his things in a box. She helped her daughter with homework. She smiled when needed, but it was a quiet smile. Not the same as before. Her husband tried to reach out once. Just a short message. Can we talk? She read it, then deleted it. There was nothing left to say. The week moved fast. Papers were signed. Files were sent. Steps were taken. Each day brought something new. One more thing off the list. Her lawyer told her she was strong. Her friends checked in. Some were shocked. Others were proud. She didn't say much to anyone. She just kept going. By the end of the week, the house felt different. A little lighter. A little quieter. The silence wasn't empty anymore. It was peaceful. She stood by the window one evening, watching her daughter play in the yard. The sun was low. The air was still. For the first time in a long time, she breathed without pain in her chest. Everything had changed, and she was still standing. Not broken. Not hiding. Not just surviving, moving forward, one step at a time. Weeks later, her daughter hands her a drawing. It's made with crayons on folded white paper. At the top, in big letters, it says, "Me and Mommy, strong girls only." The picture shows the two of them standing side by side, holding hands, both smiling. She looks at it quietly, her eyes stinging with sudden tears. But this time, the tears are not from pain. They come from something soft and warm, pride maybe, relief, love. She pulls her daughter into a hug, holding her close, not saying anything right away. The small arms around her feel like everything she fought for. She whispers, "Thank you," because no other words seem right. Her daughter smiles up at her and runs off to play, leaving the drawing behind on the table. She picks it up again and stares at it for a while. She touches the paper gently, as if it's something fragile. Then she walks to the kitchen and places it on the fridge with a heart-shaped magnet. It stays there, where she can see it every day. The USB is now locked in a drawer at the back of her closet. She hasn't looked at it since. She doesn't need to. It served its purpose. It brought the truth to light. It hurt her, but it also helped her become who she is now. Some days she still thinks about it, not with anger, just as a memory, a reminder of how far she's come. The house is quieter these days. There's no tension, no fake smiles, no unexplained silences. Her sleep has become easier. Her mind is calmer. She wakes up and doesn't feel afraid to face the day. The little routines with her daughter, brushing teeth, packing lunches, reading bedtime stories, feel more special now. There's peace in the simple things. Sometimes she catches herself smiling at nothing. Sometimes she laughs again, for real, not just to hide pain. Her daughter's laughter fills the rooms too. That sound means everything to her. People still ask questions. Some friends want to know the full story. Others just offer quiet support. She chooses who to answer and who to leave in the dark. She owes no one anything. Her life now belongs to her and her child. That's enough. The moment in the car plays in her mind now and then. Her daughter's voice soft and curious. "Mom, what's this?" That one question changed everything. That little voice opened a door she didn't know needed opening. She never saw it coming, but now she sees it as a gift. She doesn't think about revenge anymore. She doesn't wait for sorry. She doesn't need anyone to fix what was broken. She built something better from the pieces. And when her daughter looks at her with wide, trusting eyes and says, "You're the strongest woman I know," she believes it. Because she is. If you've ever been hurt by someone you loved and still chose to rise, this story is for you. Share it with someone who needs quiet strength today. Like, comment, and follow for real stories of healing, courage, and self-love. You're not alone. Your comeback starts now.